Fix errors, waste, and issues in a couple of clicks. Get alerted whenever you're off track. Sign up at trueclicks.com.
Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises to manage clients and projects with max efficiency, sharing Wix's SEO tech to help you drive growth.
Hi everyone, it's really nice to see so many faces for the online PR portion of today. Today I'm going to chat you through how you can use reactive campaigns through TikTok, how you can use TikTok for reactive campaigns. So first of all, why I use TikTok for reactives? My number one benefit, I think, for this is it's so cost effective. It's a really budget friendly tactic, whether that's you're working in-house, you're on a reactive first strategy, you just want to supplement any of those bigger campaigns. It's a really kind of quick fire way of doing things. It requires very little in terms of time outside of your initial strategy, and it can provide some really fantastic results as well. It also gives you a chance to be a thought leader within your particular niche or area. If you want to position yourself as an authority, whoever's kind of if you're agency side, if you've identified somebody within the client that can be that expert comment, or just internally as well. And lastly, it's a really fantastic resource for user insights. So not only data, but qualitative. So looking at things like how do people feel about trends, what's coming up, what should we be aware of, and what are the reactions to it. So according to some research that TikTok did recently, 71% of users believe that the biggest trends start on the app. And I popped this little picture in because when I was finishing this deck, I nipped into the office and me and my colleague Lauren were wearing exactly the same trousers, which it happens, outfit mistakes. But the reason it kind of was so funny and relevant to us is because we instantly knew these trousers were trending on TikTok. There were a pair of like M&S linen trousers that had sold out everywhere. Loads of fashion bloggers were posting about them to the point that we basically styled them the exact same way. So it doesn't say much about our fashion sense or individuality, but it does go to show how it's impacting our behaviours. And to follow on from that as well, 43% of people try something new or go somewhere new because of something they've seen on TikTok. So this gives you a really good chance as a brand to kind of get amongst that conversation, or to give them the solution, or to drive them to your brand or your site as well. So how do you get started? Because it's all fine and well, saying let's use TikTok for reactives. And I think the average person spends about 95 minutes a day on TikTok. And that's the average person. I think it's probably much higher than we'd care to admit. So in terms of sifting through those videos, how do you spot something that's got potential versus it's just another video? I would preface this by saying always have your strategy at the heart of what you're doing. And that goes without saying, I think, these days, if you're working in kind of online PR or digital PR, you want to kind of have done that baseline strategy work. You want to know where you're trying to build links to. You want to know what your key categories are, what your keywords that are your focus. And this will kind of give you a really good chance to just align early on. You can kind of use those keywords and go into the app and see what's trending in that niche, or who are the big creators in your space as well. It also means that further down the line, when you do come to put those stories out, they're super aligned. You know they're going to have as much impact as you can from an organic point of view as well. Because as much as, reactive PR is fantastic, you need to make sure it's got relevance as well. My next tip would be to create dedicated accounts. This is particularly important if you're kind of agency side and you're working in lots of different sectors. This is a really good example. The middle is from my own For You page. I'm big into crochet and I love my dog. So yes, I would crochet my dog a dog toy on a weekend. But I also have clients in the automotive space, which, as you can imagine, is absolutely other end of the spectrum. And I've also worked with clients in kind of HR or compliance or food or whatever it might be. TikTok's really fantastic at tailoring your For You page to you. And if you can kind of manipulate that algorithm to give you exactly what you want to see, you'll be the first one to see what's trending in your niche. So I would say set up different accounts based on those niches, engage with the creators in your space, engage with videos, save, like. It'll really kind of help you keep aligned, and it'll also save your sanity at the end of the day when you want to come and just kind of decompress and scroll on your own For You page as well. The TikTok Creative Center has a fantastic new tool called AI Assistant, and it's worth bearing in mind it was designed with ads, I think, in mind, but a good jumping off point if you're not really sure where to start. You can kind of put your prompts in to say, you know, what's been popular in food over the past week. What automotive trends have we seen in the last month in the US? You can do it by geography, you can do it by date. It'll just kind of give you a really good jumping off point, and it might spark some inspiration. And then some other additional tools which arguably should be in like your reactive arsenal anyway. But looking at things like Google Trends and Pinterest Trends, we look at these kind of daily, and it's a really good way to cross-reference if you're seeing any kind of increases through Google Trends. You can kind of go back to TikTok and see if you can attribute that to something, or vice versa. You know, if we know we've seen a trend on Pinterest that's to do with interiors and we can match it up with that video, it's additional data that you can also back up your story with. And again, the TikTok Creative Center, just loads of kind of useful assets on things like what sounds are trending, which users are performing really well. So tips on spotting what has reactive potential in those videos themselves. Look at the comments. This would be my absolute number one tip for anyone that wants to start doing this. Comments really give you an idea of how people feel about something, and they won't be shy to share it if it's angered them, if they're confused, if they want to know more. This is like some examples I pulled just from a few different videos. So we can see there's ones where people are just explaining the concept. There's one here, somebody offering a safety warning. I think this was the classic pour hot water over your windshield when it's iced up. Somebody asking a bit more, wanting more information, having more questions. I think that was based on an IKEA bed frame hack that didn't look particularly safe. And then lastly, just people sharing how happy they are, how much they love it, how jealous they are. The key to a really good story is emotion. And a journalist is ultimately going to want to cover your story if you can give them the so what. And the so what is, this is how people feel about it. This is where they're seeing the potential in it, or this is why you shouldn't be doing it, because we all know a bad news story is a good news story as well. Yeah, it just kind of, it'll give you an instant jumping off point. So for me, instantly, when I see questions that I think we have an expert that can answer those questions, that's a green flag for me for a reactive. And then metrics, because obviously there's going to be tons of metrics there that you can make use of within the app. If you're looking at specific creators, you can drill down into their profiles and get an overview of which videos perform the best. If you were doing a kind of a bigger campaign, this might be quite useful, or if you just wanted a bit of an overview. This is an example, Cecilia from Svalbard, who's a big creator on the app. And if I just wanted to know kind of what's outperformed all of our other content, it gives you a good overview. And then drilling down into video metrics themselves. So we've got the likes, comments, favorites, and shares, all really worth noting depending on what kind of angle you're taking. My favorite one to look at, ironically, is the favorites. This is really good if you work in things like food, because if people are favoriting it, suggests they might be saving it for later if it's a recipe, or if it's an interior hack, they're saving it for inspiration down the line. So always one that's worth coming back to. And hashtags. So you can use the search bar within the app and filter by the hashtags. I think many people will be aware that TikTok removed the ability to view how many views had been on a hashtag earlier this year, which is a bit of a shame. So we can only really see how many posts are within that hashtag now. But there is a little bit of a workaround with it, although it doesn't work every time. You can go into Google and use this as a little bit of a tip if you want to see the number of views. So all you need to do is like pop your hashtag in, followed by TikTok, and then you'll kind of see here, the cottagecore, we know it's got 17 billion views. It's not as specific as we'd like it to be, but it's a good reference point if we want to get an idea of the effect or the scale of the trend. And in terms of metrics, one really, really important thing to do is to keep a track of them. Write down the date you first spot a trend or a video when you want to start working on that reactive. Keep an eye on the date and those metrics, and it means you can monitor the growth of that trend as it progresses, because we all know that sometimes the first time you pitch an idea is not the time it gets picked up. Quite often you have to pivot, you have to go out again a week or 2 or 3 weeks later. And if you have that metric and you can show that percentage growth on views or hashtags, whatever it might be, you've also got some data there that nobody else is going to have, because you can't get that historic data, well, not easily anyway. So as well as kind of adding that additional angle, you're also saying, here, I have the data to back that this is a trend that is growing. So now we've identified all that, these would be my 5 foolproof ways of using reactive for different angles from TikTok. The Mythbuster, this is my personal favourite and one we do quite often. It goes back to that bad news is good news. And people are naturally quite skeptical of TikTok and what people are saying on TikTok. That's where the kind of emotion side of things comes in. So you want to be looking at kind of how can we build on something and how can we kind of dispel a myth? How can we educate people on something? Particularly interesting if you work within anything that's to do with like health or what finance or well-being. It's also, as a PR, it's an ethical thing to say, you know, it might be a trend, but should people be doing it? Should we steer people away from this if it's a safety concern? So a great example of that we did, we found a video on perpetual stew, which instantly like turned my stomach when I saw it. It was people were creating stews that they were adding ingredients and it was going on for weeks on end and the pots weren't being cleaned. And instantly that just sounds like a health and safety problem. So we kind of saw that and we looked at the comments, and as expected, everyone in the comments was going, this is disgusting, you're going to die. So we knew instantly there was a hook there. So we focused on those skeptical comments. We used that as our hook and those reactions, and we included them in the press release themselves. And we used an expert with our meal box delivery company, so an expert in the food industry, to say, where are there safety concerns here? Why should we not be doing this? And the way we did it is we knew we had like newly optimized pages around certain ingredients that we needed to push and build links into. And luckily for us, they were quite commonly used in these recipes. So we kind of used that as our anchor text and building links into those pages as well. So you can see it still remained super relevant, but it was very topical, and it had that kind of bad news is good news angle. And this is an example of some of the coverage that we built off the back of that as well, including branding in the headline as well, which was fantastic from a brand awareness point of view. And the PR contact internally was thrilled with it. Secondly, the try at home trend, arguably one of the easiest ones you can do. You want to look at things that are trending and how can you add something to that? What value can you add? If people are trying something, how can they do it even better? Is there recipes they can be following? Is there tips they can do it so it makes it even easier? Can they do a more eco-conscious version of it? It's just a really nice way to kind of identify somebody and just provide a few tips alongside as well. The viral products, going back to those M&S linen pants and the classic Stanley Cup, which everyone seems to have. This is amazing if you're lucky enough for one of your products to go viral on TikTok. It's kind of done the work for you. But that's kind of a once in a blue moon situation for most of us. So we want to be looking at, well, how can we kind of muscle in on that? Do we have an option that's an alternative to this trending product? Is it a budget friendly one? Is it eco-conscious, like I mentioned before? Try and get yourself into those product roundups by hopping off the back of that trending product. The expert opinion, so kind of similar to the Mythbuster and what I was saying earlier, where this gives you an opportunity to really position yourself at the heart of something. This is where you want to be looking a bit deeper and how can you add kind of more expert opinion? Where have we missed out? Is there something you can dive deeper into? Is it a bigger cultural phenomenon? It just gives you a really good example of where experts can really add something to a trend as well. And a good example of this was for our bed client. So going back to Cecilia from Svalbard, we saw a video on her airing out a duvet in like sub temperatures. And we knew that we wanted to push keywords around like bed cleaning. We had a lot of informational blog content around the topic. So we did multiple angles with this one. We had a few different shots, a few different press releases. We looked at the cost saving angle because obviously it costs nothing to put your duvet outside and it supposedly has all these cleaning benefits. How would it impact your sleep? How would it make you sleep better? Scandinavian lifestyle, I'm sure everyone's seen is huge, especially when it comes to sleep. We're really intrigued by how the Scandinavians do things. So we used that as an angle. And then again, the cleanliness, because we know cleaning videos on TikTok seem to perform quite well in the nationals as well. There's a hunger for that. So we optimized the press release around those bed cleaning keywords. We linked back to all that informational blog content. And the results were brilliant and the client was super thrilled. They really wanted to have more practical advice-based articles. So it was marrying up that this is trending, but this is something we can add to the conversation as well. Lastly, trend predictions. These are brilliant if you work in like fashion or lifestyle or interiors, whatever it might be. If you can get on a trend early enough or even be lucky enough to coin it, then it's a really great way to kind of position yourself as a thought leader. So how do you craft the perfect headline? this is an example of another TikTok reactive that I worked on with the team that we did build links from. And I've highlighted a few things here. And when I put together a headline, particularly with TikTok in mind, I think of MEN. So you want something that's measurable. You want something that's got emotion tied to it. And you want something that has a niche. So we know that the niche here is cleaning hacks. We know there's a big hunger for people that are, you know, into their cleaning tips and Mrs. Hinch and all those kind of things. There is a huge need for that. The 8 million views was data that we took directly from the app. And again, when we came to pivot this a few months down the line, we looked at the growth and we'd seen that the video had shot up again in views. So we could say, you know, the percentage increase on people watching it had improved. And then baffled, I think that's the key part of this here. That's the reaction. And when we looked at the comments, again, people just gobsmacked. I think the actual hack was a woman putting lemons and bleach and all sorts of crazy stuff with her kids there. And it just instantly was, again, red flag. So yeah, it really does go to show how just making sure you've got these 3 key elements, that measurable, emotive, niche, is going to secure that headline. So just to summarize, my key takeaways when you're popping together your reactive from TikTok: make sure you create those dedicated accounts. You'll thank yourself for it later. Your For You page will be so much more tailored. You'll be able to get on those trends before anyone else does because you'll be the first one to see them. And use the comments for inspiration. Look at the number of comments that are happening. Look at the type of comments. Are people outraged, intrigued, buzzing? Have they got more questions? That, for me, is the best way to find the angle that you're going to take with the story. Keep track of your metrics. You'll be even if it's just a spreadsheet or a document or a note with the date and the metric when you first spotted the trend, you'll be able to track that trend growth as it in real time, and you'll be able to offer some data that nobody else will have. Always think measurable and emotive. The emotive side is part of what makes a great news story. It's what gets people to click. If you can add that human side of the story outside of a trend, then you're onto a winner. And lastly, always add an unignorable hook. That goes for kind of any story that we're working on as PRs. But if you've got something, you don't want to just say, here's a trend, because you can be ripped from that story pretty quickly. You want to say, here's the trend and here's why you shouldn't be doing it, or how you should do it, or what makes it so amazing, or this is how people feel. So yeah, that's everything from me, I think.
Demand sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.